He's not leaving
Yeah, the line was really long.
Sorry, we'll begin in just a little bit. I have our secretary printing out some extra legislation for the audience. Here she is, for engaging and being proactive with our student government. Before we begin, I just want to kind of go over a little bit how we operate. We abide by Robert's Rules of Order, which means that you can't speak unless called upon by myself, the chair, or unless if you're a member of the audience and have something that you'd really like to be added, you can raise your hand and a senator might be able to yield some of their time briefly to you as well. So moving right along, if there are any proxies, will you please state your name and who you represent at this time?
I'm Matthew S. representing Eric Scott.
I'm Catherine Reichert and I'm representing Maria Campbell.
Thank you. Secretary Zelf will now take roll.
Zachary Fraser.
Here.
Ross Smith.
Here.
Ethan McNeely.
Here.
Jacob Getty.
Here.
Caitlin Steffes. Here. Courtney Castleman. Here. Hannah McLaughlin. Here. Sorry. Daniel Montgomery.
Here.
Giovanni Malloy.
Here.
Mackenzie McDonald. Here. Taylor Toll.
Here.
Grace Canberra.
Here.
Aziz Ben Yogishua.
Here.
Miranda Campbell.
Proxy.
Hannah Calvert.
Here.
Jerry Danger.
Here.
Anastasia Young. Sarah Morrison. Noah White. Priya Patel. Jonathan Jones. Sam Friedland. Sherry Kalmaki.
Present.
Eric Scott. Brenner Winston.
Here.
David Teeter.
Here.
Nathan Graber.
Here.
Evan Keaton. Vishal Lal.
Right, thank you. At this time, we'd like to invite visitors to introduce themselves. So we want to go ahead and start over here with the black Purdue sweatshirt. Yeah, say your name and the purpose for being.
My name is Hakeem.
I'm Jay. I'm here.
My name is Dean Ali. I'm here
I'm Dave Stoller.
I'm Austin Reed. Here.
Monica and also
I'm Clayton. I'm also I'm Jacob here to support.
I'm here to listen.
My name is Maya. I'm here to listen.
Lindsay.
I'm AJ, Purdue student, Social Justice Coalition.
I'm Susan Bucket, and I'm here with
Nicholas.
I'm Ozzy, I'm just learning.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm Val. I'm here supporting the Social Justice Coalition. My name is Aswan, and I'm here with the Social Justice Coalition.
My name is Diego. I'm here. Cody over here.
Hi, everyone. I'm kind of short. My name is Brenda Ramirez. I'm a mentor for the Murder Relief Program.
Walter is reporting on college back.
Hi, Melanie Duke, representing Parent School Management as well as the Business Opportunity Program.
I'm Ayana Daniels, representing the Business Opportunity Program.
Just so you know, there's some open seats over there too, just like, and then we want to go wrap around and then come back over here. Visitors introducing yourselves.
Do you mind if I'm here because I work here?
Nathan, I'm a director of PSG.
I'm Mark, the director of PSG, and thought this would be interesting to listen to.
I'm Ishbar, I'm the director of PSG.
Trevor, director of strategic planning and assessment.
I'm Skylar, I'm the executive director of communications.
I'm Arjun Verma, I'm an associate director.
I'm Brian Ryder, and I'm the executive director of student engagement.
I'm Colfax Pye, I'm a director of communications.
Vinicius, director of DNI.
Hi guys, Carly, I'm here with some of my fellow concerned student body members.
I'm Afton Goins. I'm also a concerned student body member.
I'm Brianna Jakes, I'm also a concerned student body member.
I'm Shannon Kane. I'm also a concerned student body member.
I'm Nicole Lissy. I'm just here for support.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Drew. I'm a clerk on the Student Supreme Court.
I'm Lana, and I'm also a clerk on the student board.
I'm Jillian Ellison. I'm here for the Purdue Expo.
Hi, I'm Emma Nolte. I'm a very concerned student, and I'm the president of SPARK.
I'm Alex Gilmar, photographer at Purdue Exponent.
Thank you so much, everyone, again for coming. At this time, I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the voluntary pledge of allegiance. Senators, please remember to stay standing for the pledge of purpose. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our purpose is to be the voice of the Purdue student body, serve the needs of students on all university matters, and provide leadership that stimulates initiative, inspires excellence, and exemplifies professionalism.
And above all,
Hail Purdue!
All right, moving right along. Are there any cabinet reports at this time that could you like to start?
Yeah, in the interest of time, there's really nothing that cabinet would really like to go over for this meeting. Just wanted to focus on the goals we have coming up, and look for an email on Sunday, as usual, with more information.
Advisors, do you have any reports at this time? Thank you. Moving right along to informal discussion. At this time, we'd like to invite the Purdue Social Justice Coalition to come up and present. Let's go.
Sorry, we're excited. So, you guys know me, I'm Carly. We're here, we're about to concerned student body members. We want to talk to you about some of the bills that you're discussing today.
So first off, I'd just like to say that we're not an official organization. We're just a group of concerned students who are passionate about this cause. I'd also like to reference a quote from Mitch Daniels about one of the values that we hold here at Purdue, and that's to be a welcoming, inclusive, and discrimination-free community. And with that urgency that he said in his letter that was sent out in email to us all, we think that it's not just the responsibility of the administration to see that that's followed through. It's everyone on campus is responsibility. And so we're here to express our urgency with passing Bill 1545 and resolutions 1521 and 1523. Next slide, please. So in the last week, this group of students has done like incredible things. First of all, we had a rally last Friday, a solidarity with Mizzou rally last Friday that attracted over 1,000 students, which is crazy because we organized that in less than 48 hours. And in the next 48 hours, we got over 2.8 million hits on the hashtags that we had said. And so that's crazy huge, especially for those campus, that's like a fraction of that. And so I'd like to express that we are here and like this is a real problem, not only on campus but also worldwide. And yesterday, a group of our students met with President Mitch Daniels to express our concerns, and you probably read about that today in the Exponent, so I'm going to get into that further. But we began our efforts last Wednesday, so exactly 1 week ago tonight, we began all this, and everything is happening, so that's pretty incredible. So Bill 1521, that's the backing of our open letter that PSG rather stands with the University of Missouri. We're all Purdue students there. I know that all of you can read what's on the slide. But it is, we feel, urgent to stand with the University of Missouri as well as we members who spent hours composing the solidarity letter because of the injustice that we have kept record of that people are experiencing on campus. We made a book that's roughly 115 pages long, just of people's stories, and also hateful tweets, yik-yaks, other sorts of things that we found on social media, displaying the environment of, it's a very uncomfortable and unjust environment that exists here on Purdue, whether or not we would like to admit it. Lots and lots, arguably almost all students of color on this campus, and even white students, have felt this, have recognized this, have either seen or been victim to racial injustice and discrimination on campus, whether or not we want to accept that. And so by noticing and paying attention and acknowledging these injustices that people face every single day on this campus, we have to also acknowledge that we are going through a similar racial climate that is going on at the University of Missouri, which is why we want to stand with their protests against injustice that should not be happening. As we mentioned, Mitch Daniels himself stands behind a university climate that is against discrimination, that fosters an inclusive environment for all of its students, and so we think that the same should be done and should be shown with our solidarity letter towards the University of Missouri.
Okay. Yes. And we feel that another major point in making Purdue a more inclusive environment would be a more diverse PSG. Like, I know you guys are all doing your job very well, but just to make sure that everybody's voice is being heard as much as they want it to be. So we found that the best way to do that would probably be the Outreach and Representation Committee, which main goal would be just going out and spreading the word and trying to reach students that might not have like ordinarily heard about PSG and try to get them more involved in just like any way possible. So, and this committee would show that PSG truly does like foster like a caring environment, and that they want to make sure that they cover everybody and that everybody's voice is actually heard.
Okay, so this last one is me, very near and dear to my heart. How many of you guys in the audience are Emerging Leader Scholar recipients? Yeah, a few of you guys there. Me as well. I was a first generation, came here in 2013. And I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, by the way. And so Ohio State, you know, since I was a little kid, was the place to go. You know, if you're from Cleveland, went to Ohio State. Akron, Ohio State. Cincinnati, Ohio State. Columbus, obviously Ohio State. So my whole life thinking of going to Ohio State, funds came up short. So it was actually cheaper for me to go out of state to Purdue University, which actually ended up being a deal for me because it's more or less a better engineering program. with this scholarship, I can go here essentially tuition free. All I have to do is pay for rent and books, where at Ohio State, I would have to come out of pocket for a few grand a month. So this scholarship is very near and dear to me, as I'm sure it is for several members of the audience as well. So, number one reason why students who got accepted into Purdue did not actually enroll here is all financial based. And this is actually especially true for underrepresented minorities. So when I say underrepresented minorities, URMs, I'm talking about African Americans, Native Americans, Latino Americans, just so we're clear, URMs is that. I got this data from a 2015 admitted student questionnaire. I want to reiterate that this is data collected from the entire university, not just underrepresented minorities. So everybody goes to school where it's financially most sound. And Vice Provost Horn also agrees in a conversation that she had with Mike Young not too long ago that this is especially true for underrepresented minorities. So I have some data here from the College of Engineering and the College of Ag. This is all I could pull on such short notice, but this represents roughly over a third of the campus. So if you can see here on the far left, this is the enrollment yield, as it's called, for African or underrepresented minorities and white students. And so you can see here, these percentages represent the ratio of students of color who enrolled here against those who accepted. So if you can see here, between 90 and 93% of students of color who are accepted into Purdue University do not come here. There are students getting accepted, but they're not enrolling because of finances. However, white students, you can see, it's obviously not at 50%, but it's roughly double or triple. So you can see there's definitely a noticeable disparity there. Same thing with College of Ag. So I don't know these statistics off the top of my head, but there's always a 10 to 15 to 20% difference between students of color and white students when it comes to enrollment. So I've been reading the yik-yaks, seeing the Twitter posts, hearing the passive-aggressive comments from the students in my class, so I thought I'd go ahead and knock out a few FAQs real quick. So, why are we lowering the institution standards to let minorities in? So, I'm going to make it very clear that the admission criteria has always been and is currently colorblind. In other words, if you are black, Latino, Native American, gay, straight, Christian, Muslim, whatever, you got accepted here because you earned it. Once again, you were accepted here because you earned it, not because you needed to fill a seat, not because you needed to fill a quota. You got here because you're smart. So the Emerging Leader Scholarship and other discretionary funds just like that are designed to attract, maintain, and retain these already admitted students of color. Make that clear. Next slide. So if you want an inclusive campus, why are we giving students of color more opportunities to silo themselves off? I think the exact number for African American students is, anyone want to take a guess? Not you guys. 3%. So I know in the College of Engineering, you look me by myself, I am, I believe, 2% or 5%. My singular person, I am 5% in the College of Engineering. So arriving at a campus where we are less than 10% of the population here can be a bit overwhelming. Moreover, the pressure to assimilate and conform to the majority's culture can be an uncomfortable circumstance, as it can intrude on one's self-identity. You always want to keep and maintain who we are, where we came from. So in order to help maintain other people's self-identity, promote cultural differences, and mitigate the alienation that many represented minorities feel when they arrive, it's imperative these additional resources be provided to people of color. Furthermore, and this is a really big point here, furthermore, I would like to reiterate that most of these resources, aside from financial ones, but most of these resources, the Black Cultural Center, LCC, Minority Engineering Program, historically Black Greek organizations, these are all inclusive, meaning that they are offered to everybody. I tutor chemistry, Chem 115, in the Minority Engineering Program's Tutorial Center, and you wouldn't believe how many white students I see who say, oh, I need tutoring, but I can't go because I'm white. No, these programs are open to everybody. Pro-black does not equal anti-white. Let's say it again. Pro-black does not equal anti-white, so we're clear. Next slide. So now I could talk about institutionalized racism forever. I could probably lead a semester-long class on it, but we only have like 5 minutes here. So next question, why are we distributing funds based on race? We are all equal, right? This is reverse racism. So I'm going to tackle that the best I can in about 5 minutes, but I want to draw your attention to this comic over here. Once again, it's comic, it's animated, but I think it speaks volume on the conditions in society that many of us experience today. So First pane, you got this white guy coming up this black guy's shoulder. Black guy's in a ball and chain. White guy's saying, hey, this is for your own good. You know, he's coming on top of him, he's on his back. Finally, he's at the top here, and the black guy is free, and the black guy's asking for a helping hand, and he's saying, no, of course not. That would be reverse racism. Get up yourself. So does everybody sort of see the metaphor that this is getting at here? I'm going to delineate upon it in the next few slides, but does everybody pick up what I'm putting down? Yeah? Slate? Yeah? I know, it's tired. All right, so here's a quick synopsis of institutionalized racism for the next 5 minutes. So 1600, 1865, African Americans are brought over here on very large boats. We are slaves, cargo, dispensable goods, sexualized objects, livestock, 3/5 of a person, and pursuing education is a suicide mission. Roughly 2 centuries ago, I would be lynched for opening a book. Put that out there. 1865 to 1880. So, yes, slaves are free. Abraham Lincoln, yeah. Emancipation Proclamation, yeah. Woo! Not really. So we're actually only free-ish, and I put an emphasis on ish because all these black people are freed, and then what? Well, we don't have any education. Our families have cotton in this land, and these oppressive people who used to own us. So what happens, we're forced to remain sharecroppers on the land. So first we had slave owners, and now we are slaves to the land. So pretty much in the same spot where we left off back when slavery was instituted. However, there are a few blacks who were able to escape these unfortunate circumstances. Edward Alexander Boucher, is the first African American to receive a PhD. I believe he received that PhD in physics from Yale, and that was in 1878, but don't quote me. Once again, getting and receiving municipal education is considered a luxury for blacks. So, obviously, university, college was absolutely out of the question. There wasn't a necessity for it. Most of these black people are still working on the land. They didn't see a need for any sort of post-education. So next slide, please. So 1900s, 1960s, post-Reconstruction, Jim Crow era. Everybody's familiar with separate but equal, sort of legitimized segregation of blacks and whites. It was objectively evident, however, that things were not actually equal. They were separate, but they weren't actually equal. And then the black people attempted to surmount these inequalities via integration. They were beaten, lynched, and mutilated. Once again, beaten, lynched, and mutilated for wanting to attend post-secondary opportunities. Once again, this was in a lot of our parents' and grandparents' generation, so this is not far off. 1970s, 1990s, yeah, there's been some efforts to increase diversity, especially here at Purdue. The National Society of Black Engineers founded here in 1975. However, marginalization and disenfranchisement of students of color are still prevalent. Although there were students of color at these universities, the support system for these students were lackluster, resulting in poor retention rates and a lack of motivation to pursue post-secondary opportunities. I'd like to call your attention to this right here. This was a study done here at the university by Dr. Bond in 1977, and he cited a lot of the reasons why students of color, African Americans specifically, actually dropped out of Purdue within the first semester. And if you notice, the large majority all had to do with a support system. It was evident then, it's evident now that we need a support system, and these numbers have changed since then because of the establishment of organizations like MEP, discretionary scholarship funds, et cetera, et cetera. So, also, pictures over here, this is James Meredith. He was the first student to integrate Ole Miss. He was shocked to go to class. Once again, black people post-secondary opportunity didn't really flow over together. So today, the chronic effects of both active and passive discouragement of African Americans to attend colleges is still felt. This combined with financial struggles that many underrepresented minorities face makes attending college seem like a faraway dream in Never Land. Therefore, it is imperative that we provide our underrepresented groups with the necessary funding and the resources that we've previously been denied in order to succeed. I did the best I could. I think it took like 5 or 10 minutes. Next slide. Thank you for your time.
There's a lot of things in there that are really going to shock you and really appalling. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you so much. At this time, I think we're going to allow like 3 minutes just in the interest of getting right along, but 3 minutes if anyone has questions.
Any quick questions?
Sure.
I have 2 questions. What's your name?
Oh, my name is Adam Williams. I'm sorry.
Adam, okay. Second, what year are you?
I'm a junior and chemical engineer.
Okay. I would really love for you to run for next year because that was awesome.
Yeah.
in England. I'll be gone from May through November. But otherwise, yeah.
Any further questions? Okay.
Oh, going over here.
What's up, Adam?
How you doing right now?
Very good speech. I just have a question on why there's such an emphasis on emerging urban leaders versus other programs like you're part of NEP. A lot of people did STEM here too. And you know, we have a business opportunity program for all my Bot family that's in here right now. So, I mean, I would like to emphasize that there are other programs too for distribution of funds. So I just want to need clarification on why the focus on emerging leaders.
I do not have that full answer. However, emerging leaders is not strictly for STEM students. I'm pretty sure it goes to business and psychology students as well. I know I have a few friends in psychology who receive these.
Early childhood education.
Yeah. There you go. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. It does go to other organizations. I know Emerging Leaders was definitely, at least for me, it was 25 grand. So that covered all of my out-of-state tuition. I don't know of too many other out-of-state scholarships that do that. So I know that's why there's a huge push for it, at least partially. I see your point.
Yeah, I would just like that to be emphasized. There are also other programs that bring students here.
Oh, I agree.
Students that are part of emerging leaders that are involved in NEP. So.
I agree.
Could you make clear to those who might still be a little confused as to why it's important to the underrepresented students at this campus that they understand that PSG supports us in our solidarity community?
Okay, so if you look at PSG right now, I don't know how to say this in the most politically correct way, so I won't, but you guys, we're different shades here, and so it really legitimizes our movement and our cause when we see people of other races in a position of power who are with us. We don't want to be just those angry black kids protesting outside by the tree. We want, you know, a legitimate support with people who look like every shade on campus who have our backs. You know, that really says, hey, this is not just a problem for me and her. This is a problem for all of us. This is a university-wide problem that's affecting more than one demographic, and it really speaks volumes if you guys can have our backs, because you guys are probably, without a doubt, one of the more influential groups on campus.
The issue is that when people of color speak out about their injustice, we're seen as angry, over-emotional, we should just get over it.
Exactly.
When these are things that happen consistently on a daily basis to an extent that most white people do not understand. So to see white people standing behind us, it validates our claims, as messed up as that is, despite the fact that we have been saying this and we will continue to say that these things happen to us and that they're wrong. People refuse to listen until we're backed by people who don't look like us. So it is extremely important that we have the solidarity and backing from people who don't look like us.
Couldn't agree more.
I would also think the status institution-wise. I mean, I was correct. That's one of the different parts. But we can do that. It's not that my phone is correct. So the science is right. Me, like, earning my degree. So that in mind as well.
All right, thank you guys all so much. That's all we have time for at this time. We're going to move right along with the meeting, but we'd love to stay after and talk with you. Thank you. And then still an informal discussion, we are going to be swearing in our new senators. Very exciting. So at this time, Chief Justice Hassani will swear in our new senators.
I state your name. On this 18th day of November 2015. Swear to abide by and uphold. The bylaws and the Constitution. Of Purdue Student Government. I swear to conduct. All legislative business. With complete honor. And in the best interest of Purdue University. As my main objective. Congratulations as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Moving right along to old business, I will now entertain a motion to approve last meeting's minutes. Yes, there you go.
To approve last meeting's minutes.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve last meeting's minutes. All in favor, please raise your name, placards. With the unanimous vote, We approve last session's minutes. Moving on to new business. Yes.
I move to bring up resolution 1521.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to bring up resolution 1521. Purdue student government stands with France. Is there any discussion on the floor at this time? Yes, Senator Kinney.
I ask for a moment of silence for all of the deputies that
A voluntary moment of silence. 30 seconds, yeah, voluntary. Thank you. Is there any further discussion at this time? Yes.
I brought this up in August, but I would like for us to try to, I mean, it doesn't really talk about their profiles. I would like us to try to do something with it, whether it be send it to the French consulate or at least do something so this isn't just, hey, let's put it in the binder and call it a day kind of thing. It's more substantial. Just throwing that out.
Any further discussion at this time? Seeing none, we will now move to a vote. All in favor, please raise your name placards. With the unanimous vote, resolution 1521, Purdue student government stands with France passes. Senator Getty.
I move to bring up bill 1545.
It's been properly moved and seconded to bring up Bill 1545, creation of the Purdue Student Government Committee on Outreach and Representation. Is there any discussion on the floor at this time? Senator Getty, would you like to start?
Yes. After a few of us were in the office on Friday after the rally, and we were talking to some of our constituents, wonderful conversations. It was really insightful in what we talked about, and I really appreciated those conversations. So the idea to create this ad hoc to kind of continue those conversations was brought about, and I feel that having a place where we are not only opening our doors, we are shining a beacon to the world, come talk to us, would really help find some solutions to some of these problems that have obviously been facing on campus.
So,
yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's actually something that I campaigned on because I wanted to look around the room and I forget what Adam was saying, and trying not to be politically incorrect, but not to be blinded by the white. To be perfectly honest, like just to see leadership in more spaces on campus. And I think that this committee can be a great way to get a more representative PSG in the future.
any further discussion? Seeing none, we will now move to a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand placards. All right, with a unanimous vote, Bill 1545 passes. Yes.
I move to bring up resolution 1522.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to bring up resolution 1522, Purdue Student Government Statement on University of Missouri and Racial Inequality on Purdue's campus. It's amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote. Is there any discussion on the floor at this time? Yes.
So I sit on the University Senate Committee of Diversity and Equity. They drafted this statement almost word for word and submitted it to the University Senate on Monday. It got passed there, and I think this is a really good way to show solidarity with the students who have been kind of experiencing these racial injustices, and to also show a commitment to working together with the faculty and with the University Senate administration to kind of further these goals. Oh, also I'd like to propose a friendly amendment to fix it briefly. The word
been on the fourth whereas clause should not have an E after it. And
Okay, we'll entertain that.
also, in the therefore clause, on the fourth line, I mean, I'm not sure that it matters, but the Purdue student government, I think we should just refer to ourselves as Purdue student government. So to scratch out that E and leave the before Purdue student government.
Okay, we'll allow that. All right, is there any further discussion at this time? Yes, Mayor McNeely.
Yes, I would just like to point out in the fourth whereas that this is also with, kind of representing the University Senate Committee on Diversity and Equity, and just recognizing that this plan that we're moving forward here is in conjunction with the university and how it works.
Seeing no further discussion at this time, we will now move to a vote. All in favor, please raise your name, placards. Okay. With the unanimous vote, Resolution 1522 passes. Yes, Senator Young.
I move to bring up resolution
23. It's been properly moved and seconded to bring up Resolution 1523, strengthening of emerging leaders scholarship fund. It's amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote. President Young, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So I already talked about this a little bit in caucus, but and Adam gave a really good presentation on why we should pass this. This is actually part of our inclusion initiative we ran on Becca and I, our platform. We've been working on it for about 3 weeks. It just so happened that we had this session coming up, so it worked out perfectly that this is happening now. Can we get the show of hands again? Who in the audience is an Emerging Leader Scholar? Yeah, so a lot of people are here because of the scholarship. Oh yeah, and over there too, there's more people. This scholarship already exists. The program already set up. President Daniels, I believe, is actually in favor of this as well. And it's a very impactful program. The money's being raised. I do want to point out, I said $5,000 a year scholarship. That is for in-state students. If you're out of state, you may get more. Adam said, I think you got $25,000. So I'm not advocating that we cut it down to $5,000 for everyone. I'm advocating that we double the size of the program so that we can have twice as many people participate. And so if this passes, I'll take it to Board of Trustees as well as President Daniels. And I'll be working with Ken and Manny, the student trustee, to see what we can do to make this a reality. It sounds like it's got a lot of administrative support and obviously student support as well.
President Young, is there any further discussion on the floor at this time? Yes.
I brought up a question in caucus about the financials, just to clear up so that everybody knows where it is. I was questioning how it all added up, and the 2.9 million roughly the amount that will be added to the or that will come off as interest every year. When you look at the $2.019 billion endowment increase and the $500 million that would be allocated to student support, the growth rate on the endowment has been 7.7% over the last 10 years, and that equates to about $155 million in interest every year. So $2.9 million is a mere fraction of that.
All right. Seeing no further discussion at this time, we will move to a vote. All in favor, please raise your name, placards. All opposed, same sign. Abstentions? All right, with a vote of 25-1-0, Resolution 1523, Strengthening of Emerging Leaders Scholarship Fund passes. It's been properly moved and seconded to bring up Resolution 1524, Purdue Student Government stands with the University of Missouri. It's amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote. Would you like to start?
So I'm sure that you all have read the letter, and I'm sure that a lot of you helped author it, but it's the We Stand with Purdue letter. So this resolution basically states that Purdue City Government supports this letter and endorses it to the
Senator Emery.
So I think that we can all agree that we want Purdue to become a more inclusive place. But exactly how we get there and what PSG's role in that is, that's a little more debatable. So here's an analogy that I've been using all week to kind of describe how I see the situation. So when the United States has a foreign policy conflict, it has two options. It can utilize the State Department and practice diplomacy, or it can utilize the Department of Defense to attack. Both are going towards the same goal, but they have two different approaches. I think that student government is the equivalent to the State Department. We need to practice diplomacy with the administration to achieve our goals for this matter and all other matters that our constituents have. I firmly support the right to freedom of assembly, but I equate that more of an action with the Department of Defense. So I believe that we are going towards the same goal, a more inclusive and diverse campus, but how we get there can again be two different ways. In fact, it may be more beneficial to the movement to work multiple avenues at the same time. So this letter is somewhat strongly worded, and as an example, it refers to the exhaustive efforts. And personally, I've never had a constituent contact me about the issues in PSG until they were in the form of a demand after a protest. And this is kind of what we're doing with the university if we endorse this. So I'm willing to work with the community, absolutely. We need to become more inclusive. But I want to work with them, not on opposite sides of the table, and that's where I fear that we are kind of at. So, I mean, as you can see from our discussions tonight, we want to work with you, and we are working to improve PSG, send a message to the university, but at this time I do not believe that it is appropriate for us to endorse the letter, and we should practice diplomacy more so.
Yes.
I'm Catherine Reichert, Miranda Campbell's proxy, and in talking about the language of the letter, she has something that she wanted me to say. This is directly quoted. She says it's an accurate depiction of how the organizers feel and why the demonstration took place. She also says that lots of students over her time at Purdue have expressed similar sentiments. It is meant to be accusatory. It makes the issue apparent and that the issue needs to be addressed. Anything else would be infinitely weak. The administration has tried to distance themselves by way of citing what they've done. This does not. However, these programs have not had the effect or impact that they claim to have shown by the experiences of the students on campus. The university needs to be alerted to the fact that what they think is working is in fact not. Change needs to be made.
Senator Young.
I would like to yield
Thank you. So I just want to say there may be a temptation to modify this letter or to perhaps table it to a future meeting. Everybody who's here is expecting a decision one way or the other. I think they deserve it. So if you're thinking about tabling, I ask you to strongly consider voting on this yes or no here once everyone's here now. That's just my 2 cents.
Senator Sappis.
Well, I support the intent of the letter. My only concern is it feels, in the context of what is written, it feels very one-sided. And as Purdue student government, we want to support all aspects of diversity. And with something that is semi-one-sided, I have trouble supporting it.
I'd like to yield some by time. Thank you.
We look angry for being treated this way. We're trying to get people to understand where we're coming from. So I get that it's a lot. I get that this is not the truth that you're not familiar with. But we have 90 pages of evidence that this is our truth. We met yesterday and we're told that our truth did not exist. And if our own student government does not believe that as well, I don't really know how the campus is going to take that. Thank you.
I'd like to yield all my speaking time for this turn to Emma.
Hi, my name is Emma Mulkey. Like many of you, I'm a white student, and I know a lot of these things maybe you don't understand, maybe because you haven't experienced. And maybe it comes across like these demands are coming out of nowhere. But if you look at Purdue history, they have been demanded, asked for. There have been protest rallies for years and years and years. And if you guys don't support this bill, that's just showing not supporting students of color. And while it may seem one-sided to you, our point is look at your Senate. The students of color, their side is not in your Senate. So to say that what we're asking for is one-sided is not, it's just not accurate when our side isn't even represented here. We're trying to get a representation of our side, and these demands are not coming out of nowhere. They've been asked for over and over and over again. Thank you.
Senator McNeely.
Hi. So, first off, I want to apologize that anyone in here has ever experienced microaggressions. Today, I ran into Dr. Pamela Morris. Has anyone ever got to interact with her from the College of Agriculture, Dr. Pamela Morris? She's a fantastic woman. She also works alongside Myron McClure. November 5th through the 8th, we went out to Kansas City for a conference, it's an AFA Leaders Conference. I know it seems completely irrelevant, but actually what Myron was out there doing was he was with the Manners program, which is Minorities in Agriculture and Natural Resources. And you know, he is with them and he's recruiting talent into Purdue that is underrepresented minorities. I know that Dr. Pamela Morris and Myron McClure spent a lot of time working on diversity and working in these issues. And I know that I've taken a class called AGR 201 where we focus on diversity and communicating across cultures. And we talk about these issues, and they happen at Purdue and they happen across the world. But I think it's really important at this time to notice that people like Dr. Pamela Morris, people like Myron McClure are working every day here at Purdue tirelessly to make sure that underrepresented minorities have a place here on campus. They have a voice, they feel protected, they feel safe, they feel welcome. Also, I serve as an agriculture ambassador, and I do serve as an agriculture ambassador, but I also serve as a scholarship ambassador. So one of the things that they're doing currently is they're vamping up an opportunity to ask for more funds, ask for more donors to make sure that scholarships for underrepresented minorities are available. I think it's important that we realize that Purdue is working towards these goals. They're working towards making sure that everyone is included. I also think it's really important that we know that PSG, no matter what, will always take this side of diversity and inclusion. We've done it all semester long through several bills. They're great bills. Please feel free to talk to us later. Ask us about them. We'll show them to you. But we have always sided with diversity and inclusion here. Not passing this bill will not mean that we do not support diversity and inclusion. It just means that we maybe do not support the approach. When people like Dr. Pamela Morris, Myron McClure are working towards these things. They're working towards these efforts at Purdue. I feel like saying that Purdue does not work towards these efforts is just kind of, it's just not effective for us.
Okay, Adi?
I just want to say that this resolution is about the open letter. If we were to not pass this resolution, this does not mean we don't support your cause. It does not mean we don't support your efforts. It doesn't mean we don't support your demands. It just means that the specific language included in the letter is something that PSG or this body does not want to endorse. It doesn't mean we don't endorse the cause. I understand the symbolism in it, but we're looking at the language of it, and some of us are a little concerned by what's in there. I recommend to everyone here that's concerned about the representation to join the ad hoc committee that we created earlier this evening. All people are available to be a part of it, not just people within PSG. And I also encourage you to reach out to your senators on your issues. That's all I'd say.
Proxy for Senator Campbell.
In conjunction with that, Miranda would also like to make it known that though certain members of the Senate may not agree with the wording, they should support their students, that their students are seeking, and that they want their voices heard. These are your constituents' direct voices asking for action, which is why we're having an emergency meeting.
Is there any further discussion? Yes.
I'd like to yield my time to the gentleman in the white.
I want you guys to realize that you saying you don't endorse it doesn't mean that you're not on our side. Here's how. If I throw a baby out the window and you don't catch it, do you support me or do you support the baby dying? And this has been a repeating thing over and over again. And it's really hard for the people, minority group being represented, to not take it personally when it is a personal action that happens every day. You, like my lady said before, you don't choose when you're black. You wake up and somebody sees you, they judge you for this manner. I know that's not what's being talked about in the bill, but you're not supporting that, you're supporting those actions that go along with that. So just take mind of that. And I actually said this while meeting with Mitch Daniels not too long ago. We go to Purdue, it's a top 10, we want to test everything. So should we settle that this is a cause that's been fighting for, but it hasn't worked out yet? I don't believe that I came here so I could settle and get an average job. If that was the case, I wouldn't have, deferred my education to go for $725 instead of like an actual salary. So let it be known also with this letter, this doesn't mean that we are not acknowledging your efforts. We acknowledge you guys are trying, but we just want it to be better. One of the best, actually. I don't feel like anybody here that is a URM would like to say that we want to settle for this, because it's something that we actually do live for every day. And this, and most of our opinions I can speak upon, is the first step of actually including us, because the PSG Senate doesn't have any of us on here. We had to make up new things to allow us to even have a speaking right, not even a voting right here just recently. These are all little steps that you want to go towards. And yes, these steps are monumental, but the microaggressions are bigger than these steps are.
Thank you. Unfortunately, at this time, we are out of time for debate. Sure.
Move to extend debate by 5 minutes.
Is there a second? Been properly moved and seconded to extend debate for 5 minutes. This requires a 2/3 majority vote. All in favor, please raise your name, placards. All opposed, same sign. Abstentions. All right, with a vote of 24-02, the motion to extend debate by 5 minutes passes. Okay.
Just a quick thing to say on this. If you all remember, just a few minutes ago at the beginning of this session, when we gave our rule of PSG, we said it was the voice of the students. And obviously, so many people are here. The students have spoken. There's a reason that everyone is here. Personally, I remember back in Granite, where a photo of our BOP leader was in the face a while ago. And that should not be tolerated. And although Purdue is working towards full inclusion, I personally want to take a stronger stance on it. As you can see, so many people here also want to do that, and I support my students. And with that, I'm going to go.
I appreciate PhD mentioning that the language is very strong. As I read it again, trying to look at it from a set of eyes other than my own, I do agree that it is a very strong language. It is a quite a stance for PhD to take. However, to decide that you would like to take a softer approach to us is to decide that you want to speak for us in the way that you would like to speak for us. And that's not actually representing us. That's choosing a comfortable place to take. And I understand this is a very uncomfortable stance to take, that this is a very, that you're kind of polarizing yourself on this issue. But I'll restate that we exist in this state of polarization every day. The words, actually, when we came up with the letter, most of us felt like it was too soft. We felt like we didn't have to tell our story. We sloughed it down as much as we possibly could. And if it still is too much for you, I would like you to take that as a sign of what your privilege has done to your view of our experiences. Because if that hurts, read the sheet. If that hurts, sit in your class and have your advisor tell you that you can't say what you need to say on social media about your experience because it makes your advisor look racist. These are real life experiences. We tried. I promise you we tried. And if you don't understand for it, and if it's too much for you, I understand that. But realize that by making that decision, you're showing us how you choose to represent us. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Young.
I think the sentiment that I get from everyone in the room is that you feel that we are not, if we don't pass it, that we don't stand with your cause. But standing with the cause is different than agreeing with the exact language in the letter that has already been sent out. Endorsing that language, it's already been sent out. We have no control over the diction used. Just another Roman said that exhausted ourselves. If you've been anywhere at Senate sessions, you've seen that almost every session, diversity and inclusion is something that it gets brought up a lot. We have a whole diversity and inclusion committee and board of directors. We have university level committees that Senator Alonso chairs, or not chairs, but Sarah John, sorry. But it's wording like that we feel like we're not accurately representing what is going on at Purdue. No one here will tell you that racism isn't an issue. Everyone here, I think, can agree that racism exists on campus. But the vocabulary alone is my biggest concern with endorsing this letter. And when we talk about representation, guys, please run for Senate. I was in the only contested race, the Cranor girls. We got the only competitive race. Everyone, please run next year. We really want literally concerned students who come out to Senate sessions. This is great. Please run. Please.
I can't echo that enough. Please get involved with PSG, run for Senate. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. And just so you know, it's your last speaking from Senator Morrison.
I'd like to agree with Senator Young. Please run. It was fun running with these girls, but we need more people in the other schools as well. That's how we bring diversity to here. We can't get diversity if nobody runs. So, but I also like to give my screen hat over y'all.
Yes, look, were you looking at it?
All right. Well, first, I would just like to say, white silence is white consent. If this is not something that you feel the need to speak on, then it can't come off any other way than that you're consenting to these conditions.
I just have to say that, to be honest, when I was walking into this meeting, I was pretty concerned as well with the language and with kind of the stance that we would be endorsing with this. Having said that and having kind of heard the points of view in this room now, someone made a very good point that, like, we sit here, every 2 weeks and we talk about these issues and we pass these resolutions, but especially these underrepresented minorities, all of them don't have anyone who can navigate maybe the system as we can, and that's why we're here, and that's why we exist as Senate. But we have these students explicitly coming out to us, asking us to represent them in this way. As such, I think I'm going to have to vote yes on this resolution.
Thank you. And with that, we are officially out of time for discussion on this particular resolution. Are we ready to move to a vote? All in favor, please raise your name placards. Vote by roll. Okay, so we will be voting by roll.
Zachary Fraser. Carl Smith.
Nay.
Ethan McNeely.
Nay.
Jacob Getty.
Aye.
Caitlin Steffes. Nay. Courtney Castleman. Nay. Hannah McCon.
Abstain.
Daniel Romery.
Nay.
Giovanni Malloy.
Nay.
Mackenzie McDonald. McDonald.
Aye.
Taylor Toll.
Abstain.
Grace Canberra.
Abstain.
Adi Ben Yahushua.
Nay.
Miranda Campbell.
Aye.
Hannah Calvert.
Aye.
Jerry Ganger.
Aye.
Anastasia Young. Sarah Morrison.
Aye.
Noah White. Rita Pichelle's also absent.
Yes.
Jonathan Jones.
Nay.
Sam Caitlin. Sharif Omar.
Aye.
Eric Scott.
Aye.
Renner Winston.
Aye.
David Teeter.
Aye.
Nathan Graber.
Nay.
Rashad Hall.
Okay. With a vote of 12-11-3, Resolution 1524 passes.
After some tissues.
It doesn't matter either way.
Yeah, it's still.
Can we swear in Senator Canevas?
Yes.
Come on.
Yes. Want to come to the front? Sir, or Chief Justice Alisani?
If he didn't want to swear, he's trying to hire.
You look great.
Please get pictures.
I state your name.
Aye.
You can stay as November 2015. Swear to abide by and uphold the bylaws and the Constitution.
The bylaws and the Constitution
of Purdue University.
of Purdue University.
I swear to conduct
I swear to conduct
all legislative business
all legislative business
in complete honesty.
in complete honesty.
And with the best interest of Purdue University.
And with the best interest of Purdue University.
As my manifesto.
As my manifesto.
Congratulations.
All right, I think that officially concludes all of our business for tonight. Senator Young.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, please raise your name placards. With the unanimous vote, it passes to adjourn. Any announcements at this time, Senator Young?
Gladly. So, with the creation of the new ad hoc on outreach and representation, please come to me if you want to be on this committee. I would love to have each of your voices at our meetings. I want to hear from you. We can solve some of these issues, or at least get the ball rolling. I'll be here.